God gave me, Damian, instead of looking for streams, I need you to find your river. Serial entrepreneur to me, that we got introduced to the 7 streams of income 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
I was like, okay, God, what do you mean? He said, you've never seen a tree on a branch. You've seen branches on a tree. Because things don't work backwards. See, why everybody's trying to fry chicken, cut grass, pressure wash, paint, do all this other stuff, it's not adding up to their purpose. When you find your river, what you were created to do, the bigger you make your streams, it allows. Okay, so rivers flows into streams. Streams don't flow back into rivers, right? So you have to create the purpose that God gave you, and then you have the ability to have different channels, different streams to make income. So I'm not a serial entrepreneur. I'm doing my purpose that creates other income. So that's what I should say.
Grace and peace, grace and peace. It's another day above ground, and I am your guy, Randy, and welcome to another episode of the Legacy Inspired Podcast, where I am your host. I appreciate you for tuning in to this podcast and to this episode. Today is going to be another special day, another great day, another remarkable day, because I have a special guest and he don't even need an introduction. And you know how I am. I really don't like introducing people because I feel like whoever I bring on, I cannot do it any justice. And so without further ado, I'm going to just bring him on. My guy. There you go, Damian, man. Listen,
how you doing?
I appreciate you, bro.
Oh, man, good to be here. I appreciate you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, man. Let them know why you're here, what you're doing here, and how you can help them, man.
Listen, man, I'm Damian Burris, owner of My Pulpit is Different, CEO. Man, we're doing so many things. We're doing real estate. We're doing mentorship. We're doing business development, Airbnb, rental cars. We do a whole lot of things. But the biggest thing is purpose, helping people get to the place where God has ordained for them to be. Yes, so they escape the depression of being misunderstood, of not having the understanding of what God created them to do. I was on another podcast earlier today, and I was talking about, I think a lot of depression in this world is people being 20, 10, 30, 40, 50 years old, never tapping into what God created them to be. Can you imagine being created with so many great gifts, so many great talents, so many great things, and never walking into what God created you to do? I think it becomes then misguided purpose and you're frustrated. So my goal is to help you come into contact with what God has formed you to do.
Man,
yeah,
I could end the episode just with that.
Come on, man.
I could end the episode. You said a mouthful, bro. Listen, man. What how before, like, you would you consider yourself a serial entrepreneur?
Absolutely.
So why do people consider themselves a serial entrepreneur? That seems like, man, it's a whole lot, man.
Yeah. So let me go back, Randy. Let me say no to that. No to that.
Okay.
And here's why. Because serial entrepreneur to me, that we got introduced to the 7 streams of income 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
God gave me, Damian, instead of looking for streams, I need you to find your river. And I was like, okay, God, what do you mean? He said, you've never seen a tree on a branch. You've seen branches on a tree. Because things don't work backwards. See, why everybody's trying to fry chicken, cut grass, pressure wash, paint, do all this other stuff, it's not adding up to their purpose. When you find your river, what you were created to do, the bigger you make your streams, it allows. Okay, so rivers flows into streams. Streams don't flow back into rivers, right? So you have to create the purpose that God gave you, and then you have the ability to have different channels, different streams to make income. So I'm not a serial entrepreneur. I'm doing my purpose that creates other income. So that's what I should say. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it, man.
Oh, come on, man.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I don't know if I'm gonna make it, man. You got me, Doc. You got me on that, man. Listen. This is, man. You got me at a loss for words. So listen, man. So how did you? I mean, there was a starting period somewhere
Of course.
because I think I read where you were an officer. You were a police officer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Walk
sir.
walk me through that because you didn't just come out just a serial entrepreneur. You started somewhere.
Man, listen. Shout out to my mom, an amazing woman. Mom had me at an early age, had a
Mhm.
very early age, 19 years old, not that early, but at an early age where she was
Yeah,
still finding herself. And grew up without a father in the household.
I understand.
Strongly based in church. And what to any mother out there that's raising a child without a father, it creates a amount of fear into a young boy because the father introduces the taking risk. The mother introduces the child to being nurtured. So if you only nurture a boy, then he doesn't have the risk taking that he needs, that he only gets from the male presence of who I was, what was happening, what was going on. So got into law enforcement, started to see how things developed and loved that career. God bless me to have an amazing career, retired as a homicide detective. And I still didn't have the knowledge though of what I have now, what I wanted to be. And I went through a divorce that, I entered nothing, got married young and left. And I said, God, if you show me this thing called wealth, show me how to build people up, how to do what I'm supposed to do, I'll continue to show people for the rest of my life. And that's how I got into it. I bought my first house at the age of 20, 24, 25. And the rest is history.
Wow.
30, 31, 32. Yeah. My first
Okay.
house then. And I got into it and just, had the ability to get into real estate, and it just started growing, man. And God had his hand on it and still does. And just started opening up. I always had a mind to give and to have. I just didn't have the mindset to know how to get it done. I tell people all the time, poverty is not how much you have in your account.
Mm.
Poverty is what you do with it when it gets there.
Mm.
And we don't look at it being a mindset issue as much as it is how many decimals can I count in my bank account. Because if you give a person with a poverty mindset $1 million, that phrase "money is burning a hole in their pocket" becomes true because they get it down to 10 because that's where they're comfortable operating.
Mm.
So we know how to make bologna taste good because we know we have experience with it. You know, we know how to manipulate whatever we need to manipulate with the loan system because we're comfortable with it. So we get back to broke because it's where we're most comfortable. So
Wow.
I actually got changed my mindset about money. And then when you change your mindset about money, then you look at it totally different. Because you got to ask yourself, Randy, like, it's just like with anybody. If I were to meet you from a guy or a girl that talk highly about you and say, "Hey man, Randy's a great guy. He's this, he's that, he's that." When I
Yeah.
meet you, I'm gonna have a perception about you, right?
Right. Right.
If
Right.
somebody says, "Man, Randy, I don't know about him, man. You gotta watch him," I'm gonna be guarded when I meet you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, anything that you're introduced to, you're introduced by somebody, and
Right.
there's already a mindset about it when you meet them. So I ask all the people that I deal with when I speak, who introduced you to money?
Mm.
Was it a broke person, or was it a person that knew how to handle it? You gotta ask yourself. The way you handle money is the way you were introduced to it. So a lot of
Damien,
us, we have to
I
be
ain't ready. I ain't ready, man. I thought I was. I thought I was. I thought I was. Who
man, listen,
introduced you to money?
who introduced you to money?
What do
Who
you mean
introduced
by that? We
Okay, so um, you know, my mom, she was on
yeah.
welfare, so I had a perspective about money. It came from it was two perspectives. It came from somewhere else, and it was never enough because we were on welfare.
Mm-hmm.
It came from somewhere else, the government, and it was never enough. I saw her stressing about it, trying to stretch it and trying to do that. So it's the same. It's who introduced you to money. Was it a rich uncle that had investments that had 401k that knew how to prioritize money, or was it a single parent that was struggling to make it stretch for you and other siblings? So you're going to do what you see done in the household with money,
Yeah.
just like it is with salvation, right? Some of us got introduced to Christ being a loving savior. Some
Yes,
of us
sir.
got introduced to him being somebody that wanted to catch you with your work undone, like the old folks say, right? So
Right.
who introduced you to Jesus? How do you know him? Who introduced you to money? How do you handle it? So it's possible that the introduction to what you deem to be that thing needs to be reintroduced.
So how did you become reintroduced to money? So your mom introduced you to money. That was the first impression, but
Right.
there was a second impression of
Right.
being reintroduced to money. So talk to us about that.
It's all about your environment. I started hanging around the people that I knew had a better introduction of money to me than me. And when you get into real estate, that's the heart and soul of it. You're talking about finances. You're dealing with credit. You're doing all these things that cause you to have to face the music of, okay, if you want to do this, you got to get approved. You have to do it this way. So I started getting into that arena and started really understanding how credit cards work, how money works, how trust work, how all these things work, what the banks are looking for when they approve you. Like,
Were you taking courses? Were you reading books?
no, it was hands on.
Hands on.
It was
So you
hands
did
on.
you did this yourself.
I did it myself. I did it
How
myself.
did but how so that, but Damien, how did you know how did you know what books to read? I mean, were you praying? Were you asking God to help you? Was he leading and guiding you? What was that? What was that?
It was
What did that
definitely
look like?
it was definitely God inspired. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, sir.
However, I wasn't reading a book. I wasn't. So I went and got my real estate license. So in order to sell real estate, you have to learn what the banks are looking for. You have
Okay.
to learn what DTI means. You have to learn what PITI means. You have to learn what back end, front end means. You have to learn what all these terms mean to be able to sell houses. So when I learned that, I said, you know what? This is what our generation is missing. Like we know how to make it stretch, but we don't know how to make it.
Mm.
Right? Let's be honest. One in every 10 African American person has a financial advisor.
Mm.
One in every 3 Caucasian person has a financial advisor. So we're
Staggering.
looking at right. So it's a difference. So and then you got to look at it this way too. Um, we don't buy houses until most of the time 40 or 50 years old.
Help me, man. Help me, man. I'm 37. Help me.
Okay? So Randy, check this out. What's the age of retirement in your state?
I don't even know, to be honest. I
65 probably.
probably around 60, 65.
Okay. So if you buy at 40, the average mortgage is 30 years. That means you have to work 10 years past the time you're supposed to retire.
You dead.
Or if you're not dead, you standing at Walmart saying, welcome to Walmart, trying to afford the medicine in your glasses because insurance is too high. They buy at 18, 19, 21. 30 years later, they're 50. So from 50 to 65, which is 15 years, they're taking the mortgage that they had, putting it into an investment account, and it's worth $200,000 by the time they retire.
Burris, man, there's a disconnect somewhere.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to get those kind of conversations in front of us. And that's what I've been doing for the past almost 10 years is trying to give us the opportunity to understand it. I'm working on my sophomore book. It's entitled, What's Worse, White Privilege or Black Unexposure?
Woo. You're gonna ruffle some feathers, man.
Oh, listen.
You
You
gonna
know,
ruffle.
so we gotta have those conversations about what we're not exposed to.
So through your study, through your through your dedication and through your commitment, you found that there was a gap
Mm-hmm.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Big
Wow.
gap.
And so is this what your company is doing?
Yes. Yes. This is what we're doing. This is what my pulpit is different does. It started out just in churches. Well, it started out with me in real estate, but I really, really had an emphasis on churches because that's the epic center of the African American community.
Right.
And I think we have a responsibility when we talk about kingdom. I was listening to a preacher friend of mine preaching. He said, we've drawn a line with secular and kingdom. He said, but the Bible says the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof.
Yeah,
If
that's
anybody, if anybody should draw a line, it should be them. because all of this belongs to God. So we can't just be wealthy in the four walls of the church. So I started out speaking at churches, and
Mm-hmm.
the foundation or the substratum of what I was talking about was, what about the 90?
Mm.
Because we know what to do with the 10,
Yeah.
but nobody's telling parishioners, churchgoers, tithers what to do with the 90.
Wow.
And that's right. That's been my mantra for the past 5-6 years. Helping us understand it's great to pay the 10, but we still have to be great stewards of the 90.
The 90. How do we manage both, man? How so because we have a lot of people, especially those that look like us, we struggle to, and I've even, and I'm gonna be honest, there was a time in my life, where I struggled to pay the 10.
Hmm. And well, that's a great question. The thing about it is we have to get exposed to finances outside of give 10, and God's gonna bless you with it all back. Like you can't blow the 90, pay the 10. Hear me?
Yes, sir.
So you can't work that way. You have to understand how to put the 90 in other vehicles, how to save it, what to do with it, and make it work for you. Dr. Jamal Bryant was at my conference a couple of months ago, and he said 92% of African Americans don't have any investment into the stock market. 92%. And it's just we'll put it in clothes, we'll put it in things that get too small, things that shrink, things that go out of style. We'll put it in our belly, we'll eat it, we'll drive
Right.
it, but we won't invest it.
How so? What's the first? How do you invest, man? Because a lot of people don't even know how to invest. They don't even know where to start. We talk
Well,
about, yeah,
I would tell anybody. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Your
I don't know
screen,
if you're frozen. I'm frozen.
yeah, your screen is freezing up just a little bit, but we good.
Okay. Yep. So I would tell anybody the 5 tiers of wealth is emergency fund, reserves, um, stock, real
Uh,
estate, and precious metal.
okay.
So when you look at that, is first everybody comes in it, around tax season. Hey, I got $2,000. Where can I put it? In the bank.
Mm,
Okay. Because if you can't skip emergency fund and reserves and go straight to stocks and real estate.
mm.
Because if you can't let money sit for 2 months, you definitely can't let it sit for 5 years. So I would advise anybody, get an emergency fund, $500 to $1,000, $500 to $1,000. Then get a reserves. A reserves is anywhere from 6 to 9 months of the household bills that you have.
Okay.
Once you have those two, now you can start looking at having a portfolio of mutual funds like a stock or 401k or single stock or whatever the case may be. After you master that, then you can start looking at, wanting to purchase real estate. Now, you come into a whole bunch of money, you may be able to skip all those steps and go straight to buying real estate and, doing all those things. But when you're talking about the mindset of money, you got to prepare yourself, because if you save eight, nine, $10,000 from now to next Christmas, but then you go blow it all on Christmas, you're starting back over. So you got to
Right.
get the mindset to where you need it to be when you're talking about learning how to invest your money. You got to learn that money needs to mature in order for it to grow,
Money needs to, hold on, say that again. Money needs to mature before it grows.
before it grows. It does.
How can money mature? Talk to me. Talk to me.
So by sitting it in I'll give you the simple play. So in the United States of America, you can insure a 15-day-old human being. You can insure a 15-day-old human being, like
Mm-hmm.
life insurance. We oftentimes think life insurance only means when you die. Well, it's not called death insurance. It's called life insurance for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take a 15-year-old child, put a life insurance policy on them at the age of 15 days old, $50,000, $60,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can compound that with another supplemental piece that goes onto it, like what's called an IUL, Index Uniform Life Policy, where you can put, let's say, 10% that compounds every year on the 50,000 that you put on. for the next 18 years. When that child turns 18 years old, hopefully they will live to 18, the policy has the ability to cash out.
And
So
that's the
now
maturity part.
you have the ability to set that kid up where they can either leave that policy into there and they start paying on it and they add more to it,
Right.
or they can cash it out. And if they're mature enough or to start a business, or you pay for their college, you start them out. Hey, here's $50,000 to set yourself up to buy a home, to buy some real estate property, and they still got $150,000 sitting in the bank. They can roll into another vehicle and start letting that mature for their children.
Wow. Yeah. Life insurance is so, I think that's so apropos to what we need, what we are right now.
Right.
Because life insurance is very important. And I hated until I got, a little bit older to realize the benefits and the severity of it. My whole family is insured. My whole family is insured. And so it's definitely, if you don't have any life insurance, get you some life insurance, And then, like Damian said, let it mature. Let this man say your money can mature.
It can.
You don't run into people that tell you that your money can mature. We always talk about money depleting and decreasing. Your money can mature.
It can.
Man, now I understand why your pulpit is different, man.
Yes, sir.
Because when they look at you, because you can't escape it, man. You're a preacher. You're a preacher. You're a gospel preacher. But you've learned how to take the gospel or include the gospel into your entrepreneurial endeavors.
Right.
Speak to that entrepreneur who is also a Christian, who is also a blood-washed believer. Speak to them, Damian. Speak to them. How can we not find balance? Because if you find balance, something is off balance. But how can we find rhythm?
Man, listen. One of the greatest things that we overlook in the Bible is the Bible's full of entrepreneurship. Like my pastor says something so eloquent. He talks about Paul was a tent maker.
Yes, sir.
When we really break that down, Paul was a tent maker. But here's what's crazy: Paul was a tent maker making tents for people to go out when they battled. So for the soldiers to use when they battle. So if you put that into layman's terms, the Bible says your store and your basket will be blessed. Because we don't understand, we don't speak Greek, sometimes we don't know where to shout, right?
Yes, sir.
The store and the basket, right? Store is your savings account. Basket is what you can carry. That's your wallet. Paul was a tent maker for the military, which means Paul had a military contract to make tents. He was an entrepreneur. It's all around us. Jesus didn't start discipleship with a praise and worship leader, a tambourine player, and a keyboard player. He started with people that had the ability to walk away from jobs they could walk away from for 3 years and still come back to, and the job still be in place.
Peter.
That's entrepreneurship. So we have the foundation principles all throughout the Bible where entrepreneurship was something that was highlighted, but we don't understand it in that light. So we think that, hey, I got to get a 9 to 5, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm only talking to the entrepreneurs. You have to believe in what you're doing. And there's something that I live by. It's called the Ikigai. It's Ikigai. It's a Japanese word, and it means that for which I wake. So what's your purpose for getting up every morning? Now, in order for you to declare that you found your Ikigai, your purpose, 4 elements have to be in place. And this is what I tell any entrepreneur. Jesus, God being the foundation of it, but then the next 4 tiers have to be built on this. The world needs it. I love it. I'm good at it, and I get paid for it. The world needs it. I'm good at it. I love it, and I get paid for it. You can get paid for it. You can be good at it, but the world don't need it. So now you have an expensive hobby. You can love it, get paid for it, but not be good at it. Now you'll never be paid because your customer service is not right. Your shipping has a problem. Your product is faulty. You have to understand that we have to master our crafts. And just because we're Christians and we're blood washed, it doesn't escape us from really stepping into what God has called us to and doing it in excellence. And sometimes we think, oh, I said a prayer before we opened this morning. Yeah, but if you're selling coffee and you out of coffee grains, that ain't God.
Mm.
You have to really understand how to mature that thing and make it in myself in doing personal development in what I do.
Damn it, man. You messing me up, man.
You have to. You have to hone that craft. You got to hone that craft. And too often we think just because we're Christian that God is going to breathe on it. And he will.
He will.
He will. But you have to do your part.
You have to do your part. I think I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes. He was talking to Stephen Furtick. He said, God, you don't see nowhere in the Bible where God made furniture. You don't see anywhere in the Bible where God made furniture. The furniture that we're sitting on, this table that's holding my laptop, this tripod that's holding my phone, you don't see. But what God did create, he did create some trees.
Listen.
He created some trees, Doc. He created some trees, and he created mankind, and he gave him the ability, gave him the intellect, the smart, the academia to turn that tree into a furniture. Right.
And that's what we often overlook. The Bible says, I've given you the power to get wealth.
Talk about that. Yeah, please talk about that, please.
Listen,
please.
Power in that scripture means the ability to change. So he said, I've given you the ability to change your wealth. I didn't say money's going to fall from heaven. I didn't say you're going to look down and find $1 million. I've given you the power, the ability to change your wealth position. And you have to put yourself in a place to. That's why it's so important on you finding your river, finding your purpose, man. I was in law enforcement and I was great, but I was a 5 in law enforcement. A 5. In this, I'm a 10. And too often people are settling for popular instead of purpose. So now everybody wants to be a realtor. Everybody wants to be a nurse. Everybody wants to be a truck driver. Everybody wants to be a dispatcher. Everybody, but you can only go so far in what's popular. But when you tap into what's purposeful, and here's a catch, Randy, your purposeful might be you being number 2. You might make more money being number 2, but everybody wants to be number 1 so bad. Everybody wants to be out front so bad that they lose sight. Okay, what am I called to do though? What am I called to do? I was teaching in Virginia, and I said, wouldn't it be crazy for a saw, right?
Yes, sir.
To try to unscrew nails for 25 years and then retire and year 26 be introduced to wood. How crazy would that be? How crazy would that be?
Man, I need some water. Hold on, man. You going too fast, man.
Listen, I'm telling you, man.
Please say that again. Please say that again. Please say that again.
Imagine a saw, being a saw, born a saw, created to be a saw, and is trying to unscrew nails for 25 years. First, let's stop right there. The frustration of trying to unscrew nails as a saw is going to cause the 25 years to be harder on your body. It's going to be harder on your mental. And then you retire, and year 26, somebody says, hey, I want you to meet wood. Matter of fact, saw has serrated edges on it for it to cut through wood, so it makes it easier because that's what it was purposed to do. But most of us, we're trying to unscrew nails as a saw.
Because you're blind to your purpose.
Come on, Doc.
You're blind to your purpose.
Absolutely.
And you're not operating within your season.
Right. So my prayer now is, God, introduce me to the people that are wood.
Introduce me to people that are wood.
Introduce me. Introduce me. Let me meet those people.
Let me be wood. Let me be wood. Let me be wood, Doc. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Doc, this conversation is getting good, man. I didn't know I was gonna run into this.
Oh man.
I didn't know I was gonna run into this, man. How did I mean? Talk about the molding of where you are right now. All of what you said was nothing but bars. Nothing but bars. How did God mold you into this person right here? Where every time you speak, Damian, and we got people listening. And I believe it's not falling on deaf ears. I don't think it's falling on a hardened heart, but people are listening to what you're saying. How did you get here to the point where now people are listening to Damian?
It was 2014 when I got called to minister. I set my call to minister in 2014.
Yes, sir.
And I said, God, I never want to be the person that just excite people. I'm not doing this for the money. I told God, I said I didn't want to just do this just for $1. You know, that wasn't my purpose. I asked God, I said, I want wisdom. When people hear me, I want them to know that I spent time with you. When people hear me speak, I want them to leave my presence strengthened. When people hear me speak, I want them to hear you. And I remember praying that prayer in 2014. And somebody asked me that same question about 2 years ago. And I told them it was literally what I prayed for. I want people that if they only hear me one time in life, that I say something to them that causes them to want to get closer to God or to be introduced to God in a different manner. And I'll have to say, yeah, it sounds like the cliche answer, but it's God. It's the wisdom that He's downloaded into me. You know, people, this is my own theory. People say that there's a new revelation of Scripture. I don't think there's a new revelation of
No, it's not.
Scripture because that would mean that God is still writing. I think the book has been written. I think there's a new illumination of Scripture, meaning
Yes,
the
sir.
closer we get to God, the more He sheds light on His word.
Yes, sir.
So I'm asking for God to, the closer I get to Him, to make things plainer for me because people need a voice. My pastor talks about it all the time. People need a voice crying out in the wilderness. We don't need gimmicks. We don't need more LED screens. We need somebody really telling us this is how you make it in this time. This is what God really is. This is what He says, and this is what His word has for you. So whenever I open my mouth, I'm not just doing it to create a platform for me or anything else. I'm a witness to God or for God, and I want people to hear Him and not me.
Wow. Wow. Damien, we're in post pandemic.
Right.
Could you talk about how important it was for us? Talk about the opportunity that the pandemic offered
Right.
us that a lot of us missed out on because we were scared, we were petrified, we were confused, fearsome, all of these different emotions. And could you talk about that?
Sure. Anytime after a catastrophe in the world, back to the 1930s, anytime there's a catastrophe or any major world shift, the stock market takes a dive. And what we call it is the stock market kind of resets. So what happens is everything goes back to a 52-week low or even lower, which means the stock market stops. Whenever the stock market lowers or goes down or is bull or whatever we call it, right? Bearish is what it is. It's an opportunity for us to jump in and ride the wave back to the top, right? A lot of opportunities happen because people were uncertain about what was going on. I mean, interest rates were an all-time low that they've ever been as far as the housing market. I mean, I was doing some 2.9s, 2.3s with interest rates. We would have to have another pandemic for that to happen again, which we don't want that, you know.
Right.
But a lot of opportunity happened for us in that time. Now, a lot of scamming took place too, but a lot of opportunity happened for us. And we have to know one of the great things about wealth is not always having a lot of money. It's
Okay.
about taking the opportunities. I live by something, and I also speak about it. The opportunity of a lifetime only lasts the lifetime of the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, right. So of that while we have a chance. Because if we don't, we'll find ourselves just kind of double dutching, hey, when is my time to get in? It's like it's already passed you by.
Mm.
So there are a lot of opportunities. Now, there's another opportunity coming right now. There's going to be a big wealth transfer that's on
Okay.
the horizon. Listen,
Talk about that.
the people that have money now, they're either dying out or they're leaving it or it's changing hands or whatever the case may be. And there's going to be a turn. For one, the group that's really spending money and keeping the economy up and going, as far as the real estate world is concerned, is the
Mhm.
millennial crowd.
Okay.
It's their time to buy houses, their time to start families. I saw a post the other day, it was like, well, we're the adults now. We don't have cookouts no more. We don't plan family vacations. It's like
Right.
we're the adults now.
We the adults.
You're right. But we are doing better than our ancestors and our people behind us, because we're not staying on plant jobs 30 and 40, 50 years anymore and having
No.
a glass ceiling at the year 15. We're blessed. We have the opportunity to do things more. So there's a wealth transfer that's happening from one generation to the next. And there's plenty of opportunity to get in. I mean, you see millionaires now at 10,
Right.
15 years old. We didn't
Yes.
see that coming up.
No, we didn't. We
We
didn't.
didn't see that. They can hop on a game now and make $20,000 in a day.
Exactly. And we saw that. And that's the reason I asked you that question, because the pandemic exposed what you are and
Right.
what you're not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The pandemic exposed a lot of multimillionaires in this digital space. That's the reason. That's where I want to go. This
Hmm.
digital era.
Hmm.
Forbes said, according, and I always say this, and I think I said it on the video. Forbes says by 2025, the digital space, the digital marketing space, is looking to skyrocket $325 billion. So people are literally, even during the pandemic, we saw it, are literally taking their thoughts, taking their intellect, taking their whatever they went to school for, whatever they're good at, whatever their hobbies are, and they're
Right.
turning it into digital assets and
Right.
selling it at a premium online.
That's why we know the monstrosity of Amazon. That's
Yeah.
why we know it.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Jeff Bezos was working with a hedge fund group. And he was doing some numbers, and he looked at the numbers, and he saw internet sales increase to 2,800%. He said, "Ho, wait a minute. If internet sales are increasing to 2,800%, all I have to do is get a product on the internet, and it will increase to 2,800%." So if you remember Amazon, it started off as books,
It did.
and his books. And can you imagine taking $50 and you wake up one day and it increased 2,800%?
Mm.
Not 2%, 2,800%. So now what he did was he said, "Oh, well, let's just sell everything on the internet."
Everything.
So now there's nothing. You can almost get a social security number off the internet now.
You can almost get a social security doc.
That's how bad it is. So, you know what I'm saying? So when that kind of exponential growth happens, you got to look at those areas to see, okay, what's the next best thing? And it's what you just said, the digital space, artificial intelligence. I mean,
Yes, sir.
intellectual property, all those things are skyrocketing now. I mean, who would have thought we would be having church on the internet? You know what I'm saying?
Internet.
2-3 years ago.
Internet, doc.
And like you said,
and
the
and
pastors
though
that
and
were
though
not
and,
ready.
yeah, go ahead. Let me shut up.
Listen, the pastors that were not ready, they got exposed.
They got exposed. They got exposed. I mean, and for those that were anti-Facebook, anti-Instagram, anti-socials, they went under. They closed their churches. And statistics says 2,100 ministers leave their pulpit every single month because of burnout. 2,100. Some even commit suicide because of the impact, because of the burden of ministry.
And
Go ahead. The devil is alive, man. Messing with
because
this.
when we're all created to do ministry, I do believe. But every ministry assignment is not for a raised platform.
Mm.
And when you start doing something that you were not created to do, I'm not saying every pastor that leaves is not supposed to be ministry.
Yeah.
But what I am saying, there's some pastors that should have been CEOs of Fortune 500 companies.
Mm.
But the easier route was to get ordained. Listen.
Damian.
No, come on,
Damian.
man. Listen, the easy. So y'all, you have great.
Hold on. Your screen just paused. I am uploading this podcast in its imperfection, but perfection. I don't care, because what you have to say is golden.
Right.
I'm uploading it. I am uploading. Listen, go back to what you said. Go back because your screen froze up.
Okay. I said there are a lot of pastors that should have been Fortune 500 CEOs, but the easier route was for them to get ordained. And there's not. I don't have a thing against preachers. I love it. I love pastors, but sometimes that wasn't what God intended. Can you imagine getting to heaven, or being like Wood at year 26, Saul being introduced to Wood, and God said that I had such a better life for you. Now I'm glad that you were a pastor and you led people to Christ, but you would have did triple leading people to Christ had you just went down the path that I had for you. And it's about what's popular, Everybody want to be an ordained, want to make the office of bishop or overseer.
Everybody want the bishop, Doc. Everybody want the bishopric.
And those are great. Don't get me wrong. That's not for everybody. That's why my pulpit is different. And
Yes.
that's why I thrive. That's why I thrive the way I do, because God has given me, God has opened me up to a lane that I'm supposed to be in. Listen, you never have a head-on collision in your lane. You don't. The problem is you're crossing the line.
You're crossing the line. You're crossing the line. Hey, man, since we're talking about that, and oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about the preachers in our generation. Since we're talking about entrepreneurship, which I believe it's a great benefit. Mm-hmm. And I said, if God ever called me to pastor, mm-hmm. because I hate when people try to put pastoralship on me, and God never told me.
Come on now.
I don't care. And with all due respect, I mean, you may see it on me, but until God opened up my eyes and let me see a turkey and a chicken moonwalking in the middle of the highway, I'm serious. Now, I'm not saying when you're a pastor, when you're covering season, that's a different thing. But just random people, because you're a people person, that makes you a pastor.
Right.
Because you can preach, that makes you a pastor. I just have a problem because I said, if God ever called me to pastor, mm-hmm. I never want to depend on the people to supply me financially.
Wow. That's big, Randy.
I never want to depend, because we have a lot, not against those pastors that are getting the checks from the ministry. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But I'm a firm believer in having some type of entrepreneurial river, as you alluded to supply me financially. So when the people want to give, they can give to the ministry.
You hit the nail on the head. I told somebody, I just wrote my first book. I'll talk about my sophomore book. My first book.
We're gonna put all of that we're gonna link everything, all his books, how you can connect with Damian. Not to cut you off, but we're gonna link all of that in the descriptions. Keep going.
My first book is entitled CEO, and to me, CEO simply means I go first. Mm. It's not about telling you what to do and I've not done it. Mm-hmm. So to me, and leaders that have a voice and that can create from their voice, that's great. But when your sole mission is to beat the people to make them pay tithe so they can pay your salary, that's a problem.
Damien,
That's a problem.
that is a problem.
That's a problem.
And it's not it's not Bible,
No.
and it's demonic.
Listen, Jesus had a job. We come on, like I think that's the part we miss. He was a carpenter.
A carpenter.
So he didn't even beat the people up and say, "Hey, I just gave a great word. Here's my cash app." No. He went to work.
And that's what we first really see the transfer of entrepreneurship, because he learned it from his father.
Come on, man.
Who is not his blood. Who is not his blood.
I'm telling you, man, we have it so we don't have it the right way sometimes.
We don't.
And that's the biggest thing that I want us to really understand and see, that, you know, if we help these parishioners, you know, get to that 90. Whenever I stand up, I always stand up and I tell them, I said, the first thing you need to do, we're going to stand up and clap, because your leader thought more of enough of you to bring somebody into the church to help you with the 90, because they could just be beating you up with the 10. But they care about you to bring somebody in to talk about what you're doing. And it's been freeing to travel all around the world to talk to pastors and their congregations about the 90, and to build some great relationships with those congregations, because it's what we need. The Bible is so practical. When you read the Bible today, there's things that are happening now that was written in the Bible years and years ago. It's so practical.
It's unfolding itself.
Oh man, it's
unfolding itself.
Yes.
And I believe, and this is such a great time. And I tell people, and I'm not afraid of it. I still work a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I still work a 9 to 5. I'm working on my entrepreneur endeavors, and this is one of them. Right. And God is going to bless. I believe God is going to bless this platform. Because I believe and I've been following you for a minute. We have not met in person, but my discernment was connected when I saw you speak. I said, man, and I never knew that I was going to have a podcast.
Wow.
I never knew. I saw you on the Social Proof. I've been following David. I'm like, man, this dude is phenomenal. I said, I don't know how I can connect with him, but the God connect us. And and there's not even a better time for a connection other than now. Doc, I'm not gonna hold you too long, because I can talk. We can talk about this.
Yeah, all day.
We could be all day, but time don't have enough time to purge enough time for us to dive deeper into this. But we gotta do a part 2. We gotta link back up, man.
Listen, man, and I'll share this. Like Deion Sanders said, I ain't hard to find, and you ain't got to go through a whole bunch of channels, man. You asked me, and I said sure. All right?
Yes, you did.
It ain't like that.
I didn't have to talk to a secretary. No. I didn't have to go through the executive board.
No. And
I have all to the man.
But when you reached out to him, I said sure, man, absolutely. This is what I'm
and I am honored for real, seriously. A man of your caliber, a man of your stature, with more accolades than anybody could ever have. I appreciate you for gracing this platform with your presence, for real, bro. And I mean that brother to brother, for real. And we're gonna do. I believe God is gonna allow us to do more in the future, man.
You're helping me fulfill purpose, so I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Listen, man. Listen, y'all. This is another episode of the Legacy Inspired Podcast. I'm at a loss for words, man. This was a great episode. Stay tuned, man. I believe it's going to be a part 2 coming soon, man. And hey, before we leave, man, let's put a bow on this. Let's put a bow on this present, man. Leave something with the people. Man, that you feel like God needs them to hear before we close this thing out?
No problem, man. As we talked about before, 2020 was a rough year for us. It impacted us. 2021 was us adjusting to a new norm. 2022 was us feeling the effects of what happened in 2020. 2023 was us getting back to some kind of space in our life where we say we can do it. I believe 2024 is going to be the year that God shows us that He still has us on His mind. And I think 2024 is going to be that year that causes us to bloom. There's a rose in the garden that's called remontant.
Mm.
It's a remontant rose. Remontant means to have two blooms in one season. And there's somebody, you feel like you've died, you feel like you can't make it, but God is giving you a second bloom in the same season. And no matter what you've gone through, no matter what life has done for you, you are not out. You might hear the ref counting, you might feel like you're buried, but there is another season that's going to happen for you in the same season that you're in. You don't have to wait for the leaves to fall. You don't have to wait for the wind to change. You don't have to wait for the temperature to rise. God is going to cause this thing to happen for you in the same season that you're in. So whoever's listening to this, you have a remontant on the horizon.
A remontant on the horizon. Doc, hey, listen, thank you for tuning in.
Yes,
Grace
sir.
and peace. See you on the next episode.